to the Niche Pursuits Podcast. Are you ready to discover some niche business ideas that actually work? Well, it's time for a motivational kick to jumpstart your next big idea. Here's your host, Spencer Haas.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Niche Pursuits Podcast. I'm your host, Spencer Haas from nichepursuits.com. And before I jump into the actual interview today, I wanted to introduce you to our guest. His name is Shane Melaugh, and he has a couple of websites. One is thrivethemes.com, where he sells his product and is now starting to blog more. So that's the best place to go. But his other previous blog is I&rsquo.com. Now, Shane has a lot of experience, started out building smaller affiliate sites, and has actually been entrepreneurial for a long time, all throughout his life, but really started to see success when he began selling his own products. And he saw his income increase so rapidly that he decided to not do anything else other than to sell his own products. And so he's done all sorts of different products in the internet marketing space. But in particular, he's now focused on Thrive Themes. Now, Thrive Themes is a suite of themes and tools that helps individuals build websites that convert better. So this includes plugins. It includes the Thrive Content Builder, which is a visual website editor, all done within WordPress. And there's a lot of things about Thrive Themes that Perrin and I actually like quite a bit. We've started using it on our Authority website and in a couple of other places as well. And so Shane was kind enough to come onto the podcast and talk about how he's been able to build Thrive Themes and all of his other businesses into such a huge success. He's been able to do a 6-figure launch for Thrive Themes, and it's about a year old now, and he's continuing to see growth out of that business. So I feel like it's a great podcast. If you have your own product and you're looking for ideas of how you can promote that, how you can market that product, Shane shares some great ideas. He also shares some good motivational tips. If you've ever had an idea and you've been sitting on that idea for a while, he has a plan to get you to take action quickly. So listen for that, for his action plan that you can implement into your business. If you want to learn more about Thrive Themes, you can go to nichepursuits.com/thrive. Now, Shane was kind enough to offer a limited time discount to the Niche Pursuits audience only, and this is exclusive to my podcast listeners and to my blog readers only for a short period of time. You can get that discount at nichepursuits.com/thrive. Again, that's nichepursuits.com/thrive. And so if you're listening to this podcast a couple of months after it's been recorded, it's possible that that discount is gone. I'm going to see what I can do to make it a little bit more permanent. So still check out that link to see if it's there. If not, the theme itself is still a great purchase. Again, it's at nichepursuits.com/thrive. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Niche Pursuits Podcast. I'm your host, Spencer Haas from nichepursuits.com. And of course, as always, I have Perrin, my faithful co-host, with me. Perrin, how's it going over there?
Pretty good. How's it going, everybody?
Awesome. Very good. So I'm excited to do another podcast because we've got a great guest on the show today. We have Shane Melaugh of IAMimpact.com. And he's going to be sharing a lot of his insights on products that he's created and how he's made them successful. But first of all, we want him to tell his story and welcome to the show. So Shane, welcome to the podcast.
Hey guys, thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yep, absolutely. We love having people on the show that have had some success in their business, and you're certainly one of those people. But before you had success, maybe you can take it back to what you were doing before you had several successful products. What made you want to be an entrepreneur in the first place?
Well, I think there are two answers to that. And one of them is that I think I always had kind of the desire to create something and that's still one of my favorite things about doing this is just that I get to create something out of nothing. There's something that's very thrilling to do that somehow. And I think that's something that, I remember even quite early on when I was very young, that I kind of had this concept of how cool would it be if somehow you could, do your own thing and like build a company that matters. But it wasn't real to me. I just, I don't know. I couldn't honestly see myself doing it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it was kind of clear that the thing, and I don't know why I don't know why, but somehow it wasn't real to me. So I felt like, that would be cool, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a job kind of.
Yeah.
But I think so one part, the one part of the answer is I've always had this drive somehow. The other part is that I couldn't get a job. And when I did get a job, or when I did get, odd jobs here and there, I was working like as a security guard, and I was working in gardening for a while and stuff like that. But I noticed that I'm a bit unemployable. Like I usually lost my jobs fairly quickly, and I don't blame my employees for that. So I think it kind of, out of that it came together. I was mostly jobless and doing odd jobs for quite a while. It must have been like 2 or 3 years, and I think out of that it became almost a bit of a necessity. And then through some books I read, I kind of realized and woke up to this, noticing that, hold on, I can actually do this. Like I can actually just start a thing of my own. And for 5 minutes I thought this is the solution to all my problems, and then I had a whole mountain of new problems that I had to work through.
Yeah, I'm really glad you bring that up, because I think a lot of our readers feel the same way, or at least I know I did. That, for me it was until I actually started making money, entrepreneurship felt impossible, So I think that's a really good point.
Oh my God. I remember the first time I actually made any money. And at the time I was like tinkering with, this wasn't actually the first time I ever made money, but this was the first time I made money purely through like an online marketing effort. So I had already done stuff where I had sold some things on eBay, and I had kind of an offline business thing, and I was doing an e-commerce thing as a subcontractor. So I was already doing all kinds of things, and I was already seeing, I was already generating income and things like that. But I felt like I didn't really have agency there. I didn't really have a lot of agency there. And I remember the first time where it's just from some niche site I had built and put a review on for a ClickBank product, and I actually got a ClickBank commission of $27 just off of that. And I remember seeing that and going, oh my God, this is real.
Yeah.
That always feels so good, that first commission.
Yeah.
It really does. So what was your first online business that actually was successful enough to support you full time then?
Well, that would be at the time I had several like niche sites that I did SEO for, and that I mostly just promoted affiliate products. I also did a little bit of AdSense, and that got to a level at one point where I was still doing something else. I was still doing the e-commerce thing I mentioned before next to it, but I was making enough money off of the affiliate thing where I could have just lived off of that.
Right.
That was the first thing for me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And so we're going to kind of fast forward through your story. Since, those small niche sites, those affiliate sites, you've now created several products that have done very well. Can you give us any kind of idea of the type of success that you're having today, and what are your most successful revenue streams?
Well, it's now all products. So I started selling information products about 4.5 years ago, and that instantly was very, very successful for me, much more so than what I'd been doing before. So the income from my niche sites was all right, but as soon as I started selling my own products, that was way more successful. I was also enjoying that a lot more, and so that's like all of my income now is from products I sell. And we have, Thrive Themes is our biggest and latest project, and it's a theme club membership type thing. It's about 1 year old. We have over 5,000 customers, and it's growing, at a very nice pace. That's been the biggest success, and really, it's been going quite well in that almost every new project we've started has been significantly more successful than the one before it.
Yeah, and I know from talking to you that you typically don't like to talk about revenue, but I wonder if you could give us like a comparative idea of like how successful a product type business can be versus say a niche site, because I know that from the products you've built, you support a full-time development team and probably a couple other employees. So I'm wondering if you can somehow give us an idea of the different scales for those two different types of businesses.
Yeah, well, I can only speak from my experience, which is that I never had more than a handful of actually active affiliate sites, and my income there would have been I don't know if I ever broke a 5-figure a month income. Mm-hmm. I think it was always just a few thousand a month, that kind of scale. And with products, well, let me put it like this. We've had 6-figure launches of products, right? We're just on the release, just within a couple of weeks. We're bringing in a 6-figure sum of money. So for me, it's off the scale how much more profitable the product business has been.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. It really can be on a different scale. Obviously, when you own the product, you keep more of the profit, and you own the customers, and there's so much more that you can do when you're not just an affiliate. I do want to dive into Thrive Themes a little bit, and we can almost maybe use this discussion as a case study for people listening, how they can perhaps apply some of the lessons you've learned and things that you've done to make Thrive Themes so successful. They can do the same in their business, hopefully. But before we dig into the specific marketing tactics, why did you get into the WordPress tools business? It's a very crowded market. There's plugins and themes for virtually everything out there. Why did you guys decide to jump into the WordPress market?
The competitive market is actually an interesting comment that you bring that up, right? The competitive market, that's a great thing. When I see a competitive market, that's good. That's one of the signals I look for.
Right.
And so there's I think one of the things is also it comes from when I originally started. The very first product I did, in fact, even before the first product I did was about an SEO product, about building backlinks. Okay, I was teaching a system for building backlinks that I had developed myself. But even before that, I created a free product about keyword research. And the reason I created that free product is that I was learning about keyword research myself. And the more I learned about it, the more research I did, the more I noticed that almost nobody got it. So I just noticed, you can read blog posts and download reports and buy expensive training courses and buy books where they describe keyword research methods that are demonstrably wrong, that you can, and to the point where you can explain this to people logically, like, at the time, I don't know anything about this anymore, but at the time, give me 20 minutes and I can explain to a room full of people why everything they believe about keyword research is wrong. And that made me feel like someone needs to tell everyone that this is all wrong. And I think the urge came up to, even though that's also a crowded market, everybody's talking about keyword research, at least at the time, right? But it was clear to me that I can create a better product. And so I created a free report, and that was quite well received. And it was the same with my SEO product. I was looking at the market, I was looking at what people were teaching, what was available. And I looked at it and I said, I can do better than this. I can outwork everyone else in this field, right? even though I still had to acquire most of the skills, I had to learn how to put together a product. I had to learn how to put together a membership, like a membership site where people could buy something and then get access to it and so on. I had to learn how to make better videos and so on. But I was looking at the quality of the products that were available, and I was determined that I could make something that would be amazingly better, like on a different level, kind of better than what everyone else was delivering. And this has been that's my goal with everything I create. And I think it's also because I got very strong positive reinforcement. I mean, one of the main reasons why that very first product was such a success was because, most people they bought this, and they bought it from me, that nobody knew who I was. I didn't have a reputation or anything. And so, I imagine they tentatively bought this product thinking they probably just wasted $50 or whatever I was charging for it, and saw it, and just their jaws dropped because I had put so much work into this. And I have this perfectionism as well, where I spent hours and hours and hours trying to refine every single detail to make it just as good as possible. And it paid off, right? I really tried to create a product that was way better than what people, or let me put it this way. I tried to create a product that felt like a much more expensive product than what people were actually paying for it. And the comment I got over and over again from customers was that, this is better than something else I bought for $1,000 or $2,000. And I was charging something like $50 or $70 for it. And that was a very big reason why the product was so successful. I got a lot of word of mouth marketing through my customers. And so I think I got a very strong positive reinforcement there that showed me, yes, you can do this. If you deliver this kind of value, it will pay off. And also, yes, you can do this. You can step into this market and you can actually deliver something better. So this is a very, very important part of my process. When I get into a market, so like the WordPress, you can't really talk about the WordPress software market. It's much more specific than that. If you look at Thrive Content Builder, that is, we're entering the niche of visual editors for WordPress. And so, an important part of the process is look at the market. You see that it's active. You see there are many buyers. That's a good sign. That means there's a lot of money being spent there, which means I can make some of that money. And then look at the products, and I buy every single product and get my hands on. And I spend a lot of time with these products. I dissect them. And the moment I decide to launch a product, the moment I decide to start working on a competing product, is the moment where I can find that clear difference, where I can see here are some weaknesses that all of these tools have. And if we manage to eliminate these weaknesses, our tool will be on a different level. And, to the degree where I was using the market leading visual editor, and it still is, it's called Visual Composer. I think it's the best selling visual editor for WordPress. I was using that for a long time. And as a comparison, right, I saw some weaknesses there. And as a comparison, I was building sales pages with Visual Composer and then building the same sales pages with Thrive Content Builder. And it literally saves hours of time using Thrive Content Builder because we put so much work into making it as fast and easy to use as possible, and just removing all the layers of abstraction and removing all the unnecessary extra steps in the editing process. That the difference is, it's not just, it's like Visual Composer, but a little bit better. It will save you several hours of your time if you use this instead of the leading product in the market. So that's what I go for. I want to see this opportunity to do way, way, way better than anyone else in the market.
I think those are excellent points when somebody's out there trying to figure out what product they're going to create. I'm going to just hit on, sort of recap what you said. Competitive markets are good because, there's a lot of money being spent there. But it's so critical that you find a specific problem to almost target a specific part of the overall market like you did. It's not the WordPress market like you said. It's the visual editor market within WordPress that you're competing against, and then make the absolute best product out there. Find a way that you can be different and better than your competition. And I'm going to press on this point just a little bit in the fact that I'm sure we'll both agree that step is absolutely critical, that what you just mentioned, making your product better, finding whatever problem there is in that market that isn't being quite solved as well as it could and solve it better. But there's more to having a successful business, right? You get the product. Let's take it to the next step. You could have created the Thrive Content Builder to be the best product in the world, and maybe it is for its niche. But once you put it out there, nobody's going to come unless you tell them about it. There needs to be some marketing behind it. So, what type of marketing have you done to make Thrive so successful?
Okay, one important part is affiliate marketing. So that's something that I've also just been like a skill that I've been honing for quite a long time. And so one of the things we tend to do when we release a new product is we put together a launch, and not necessarily, we don't do like, I don't know if even anyone still does that, but we don't do like the guru style launch with 4 videos and the 4th one is a sales pitch for a hugely expensive product or anything like that. And I also don't actually have like a huge list of affiliates or something like that. But the idea is just that we put together a launch that on a certain date and for a limited time, the product will be available at a lower price initially, basically, and we let affiliates know, and we approach as many people as possible who have an audience that matches our product, right? So, and depending on the product, I mean, one of the things to do, for example, is let's say I'm creating a WordPress plugin on a certain topic, and I'll go and find anyone who's written reviews about that same kind of plugin, okay, and especially those who've written reviews who seem to be getting some traction. So people who are ranking well for let's say plugin. That if I type in something like visual editor for WordPress, I'd look at sites that rank highly that aren't themselves selling these products. So that maybe just wrote an article about this or wrote a comparison review or something like that. I'd also look for reviews on sites where I can see a lot of social shares or a lot of comments, which are indications that there's actual traffic coming to this site, and then reach out to these people and say, hey, look, I saw you reviewed this. Here's another product that's coming up. Here's a free copy of it. We've got a launch date. Maybe offer a commission bump if it seems like they could be highly valuable. And just kind of, put this thing into the hands of people who have reach to a relevant audience. And this is also part of just researching the product, right? You want to find out exactly who your customer is going to be. You want to know as much as possible about that, about your perfect customer, let's say. So you already want to know what websites they would be reading, what other products they would know about and maybe have tried. What forums they hang out in, what Facebook groups they're a part of, and so on. So, and those are all avenues where you can find the influencers and approach them, tell them about the affiliate promotion and so on. And for me, this isn't like, I don't have like a genius tactic for getting affiliates. For me, it's just a numbers game, right? I just say, look, I try to promote my stuff as well as possible. But basically I say, look, we've got an amazing product. If you like making money and you like recommending really, really good products, then here's something you should know about. And it's a numbers game, right? I mean, most affiliates will be uninterested or unreachable or be promoting something else. But, you just approach enough of them, and come launch day, you have a bit of traffic that you can work with. And one of the reasons I like to do these launches is because it is also a way to kind of kick off the product. So the goal for me is always to do, evergreen, essentially. I want the product to keep selling long term. So we don't do the launch and ditch thing where you launch something and it's open for a week and then you close it and that's the end of it, you walk away, right? What we do is we do the launch, but then we keep the product open and we keep it selling. And I've just found that this initial launch can kind of give momentum and then keeps the ball rolling to a degree that's almost frightening. I actually just recently saw that my launch blog for Backlink Battle Plan is still getting a few visitors every day, 4 years after that launch, and about 2 or 2.5 years after I took the product off the market. All right. So then that's kind of an example of the momentum that a launch creates. It just, all the mentions you get and so on lead to organic traffic and just lead to, it generates interest and generates chatter that really helps kick off that stream of long-term traffic that becomes ultimately the more important part of the business.
So when we're talking about approaching affiliates, I'm wondering if we can get a ballpark number. Are you approaching 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people? I'm sure you don't have, like a goal for every product, because every market is different and you're going to find different types of influence or different types of influencers. But as a ballpark, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm letting my previous affiliates know. And so right now I've got, I actually don't know because they're on different lists for different products, but I would say I probably have maybe 2,000 or so affiliates that are just on a mailing list because they promoted one of my things before. So obviously I let all them know. But in addition to that, I'd be approaching, it's more like dozens, maybe up to 100 or so leading up to a launch. And I'd be individually messaging people by email or maybe on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever. But somewhere, in the region of dozens of affiliates. So maybe I'm sending out 60 to 100 messages, and that nets me another 20 affiliates or so that will join the launch. Because I'm going after people who seem to have a lot of reach, right? So 20 of them is really good. 20 of them means like thousands and thousands of visitors for the launch. Yeah. It's kind of an 80-20 thing, right? You try to find the 20% of people who will have 80% of the reach.
Couple of other quick follow-ups as well related to launching a product. What sort of discounts do you give?
Okay, so with discounts, I'm quite careful with discounts. And the way I do it, so there's two things there are two reasons why I'm careful with discounts. First of all, if a discount is too big, it loses credibility. So if I say, here's a product that's normally worth $200, but you can have it for $7, that just means there's something wrong with it, right? I mean, instantly you just think, well, that's not right. If it's worth $200, why am I getting it for $7? There's something wrong there. So I don't do that. Usually, at the very most, I might go, I might halve the price, but I don't even know when I've done that last time. It would be more like in the region of maybe 30% off. And also, the price trend of my products is always up, which means if you buy my product today, it's not like next week I'll be running a special offer where you could have gotten it cheaper. Okay. What happens is that on the initial launch you can get it cheaper, and then the price goes up, and then we add value. We keep improving the product, we add value to it, and the price goes up again. And we might have like a special where we say, we're keeping the previous price for one more week, and that's another like promotional opportunity, right? Get it now before the price goes up. But generally the trend is just upwards, because again, I don't want to create the thing where it's unfair because you buy the product, you give me $100, but next week you could have gotten it for $50. And also, I think it's important for people to know that it's not worth them waiting around, right? You can't wait around for Christmas and then suddenly get all of my stuff cheaper. It doesn't work like that. If anything, if you wait around for Christmas, it's going to be more expensive because time has passed. And I think that's quite important, like as an overarching principle, so that everybody who, my readers and followers and so on, they know that, first of all, they're going to be treated fairly. If you buy it now, it's never going to be cheaper than now. And secondly, it also creates a bit of, I guess it almost creates a bit of urgency, right? Because you know that in general, the prices are going up.
Now, I wanted to jump in here and remind everyone that if you want to go out and check out Thrive themes, you can go to nichepursuits.com/thrive. That's a special link that Shane has allowed me to set up for my audience only, for podcast listeners and blog readers. Again, that's at nichepursuits.com/thrive. That makes absolute sense. Just another quick question. Where are you doing this launch? Are you just doing it on the sales page itself? Or are you doing it through some forums or other places?
Definitely on the sales page itself. That's something that's very important because we're doing the launch to generate that initial momentum. It will be, I wouldn't get nearly as much momentum if I was sending traffic to some forum instead of to my own website. So yeah, that's very important. We're doing that on our own website.
Yeah. And what do you use to track and pay affiliates?
Unfortunately, I'm using iDev at the moment, and I say that because it's not very good, and I really haven't found anything like. I'm in a situation where I can't really recommend. Oh, you should use this. This is really great. What I can say. But iDev is a self-hosted solution, which is something we needed for this business. What I can say for hosted solutions is there's a solution called Zaxa, which is, I think, zaxaa.com, which is a really solid solution, growing very quickly. I know the guy behind it, and he's like a really hardworking guy. He has a great team of people. So that's where I actually wish I could be, but at the time when we launched Thrive Themes, it didn't have the features we needed. But I think that's my recommendation for people looking for, how can I get this whole thing set up to get affiliates and so on. That's where I'd send people.
Okay. No, fair enough. That sounds good. So let's take it to the next step then. So you've done a big launch that you maybe run for a couple of weeks or whatever time period that may be. Thrive Themes is now sitting, you said, roughly a year old or so. Mm-hmm. What do you do now for ongoing marketing? How do you keep bringing sales in, long after your launch?
All right. So two things there are. First of all, one of the things we always do is we aim to overwhelm customers with value. So we always keep adding features and keep adding improvements to our products, and we tend to launch a product when it's we tend to do like a beta launch where you're getting a product that's maybe 80% finished, and we deliberately launch early because we want to get into that feedback loop as soon as possible, because our customers are going to tell us exactly how they're using the products, what issues they're encountering, what problems they're trying to solve that our product doesn't solve yet, and so on. So this makes our jobs a lot easier, and it's we can do this. It seems so amazing from the customer's point of view, but it's like they constantly tell us, "Wow, you're building this is exactly what I've been looking for." Well, yes, it is, because we've been listening, right? Mm-hmm. So that's something that I also, this is also a marketing tactic. So the idea is you purchase the product during the launch, and then in the few weeks after the launch, you just get hit by message after message saying, "We've added this, we've improved this, we've added this, we've added this, another free update, another free update, another free update." And you go, "Oh my God, like this thing has doubled in value since I got it 2 weeks ago." Right?
Yeah, and to give you the readers some idea, or the listeners some idea, after I started trying this, I was talking to Paul, and I was like, "Hey, this is a great product," and we were, just kind of like networking and making friends, and he was like, "Are there any features you'd like to see?" And I was like, "Yeah, well, this would kind of be cool, and maybe this and this." And his response was, "Okay, I think we can do that in like 2 weeks." And I was like, "What?" Mm-hmm. Like the amount of effort that goes into the product and continuously improving and adding value to something people are paying for is really, really, really apparent from a customer's point of view.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's a marketing thing. So, on the one hand, it's something we do because we want to do that. We want to have the market leading product. We want this to be the best thing ever. On the other hand, it is a marketing thing because it generates buzz, essentially, right? It's something that gets people talking. We're like, "Oh my God, I've never seen anything like this before. These guys are just pumping out updates like crazy," right? And so that's that's something that generates this kind of word of mouth momentum, right? And so that's an important thing that we do. And then another thing that I haven't actually started for Thrive Themes yet, but that I've had extremely good results with in the past is doing promotional webinars. And so the idea is that you put together a webinar where you spend something like 45 minutes teaching something, and then you tie that in with a sales pitch for your product. And this is a great way to promote, because it's also a great way to approach affiliates, because you can basically tell them, instead of just saying give me traffic and I'll give you commissions, you say, listen, I have a webinar that you can advertise to your mailing list, where people will learn extremely valuable stuff from me. Like, people will be thanking you for bringing them this content, right? Plus, in the end, we're going to do this promotion, and you're also going to get commissions. And so this is a more attractive proposition to a lot of affiliates than just, send an email with a link inside it or something like that. It's also very lazy for the affiliate, right? They basically don't have to do anything. They just send out an invitation for the webinar, and they show up on the webinar and they say, hello everyone, blah blah blah, welcome, and here's our guest speaker for today. And then they lean back and you do all the work, and they make a lot of money. So and also there's a certain, webinars are great because it's live. You have people's attention much more than if you send someone to a 1 hour video on a website. Very few people are going to sit through that. But with a webinar, because it's live, people just pay more attention. I've had this many times now, that I think that the most extreme one I've had was that after 3.5 hours, there were still 200 people on the webinar.
Wow.
And that was a pure content webinar. That was no promotion, but that was, a long webinar, and then just a lot of questions and answers, and we just kept going. After 3.5 hours, 200 people were still sitting there and listening. And I can't get 200 people to watch a 3.5 hour video on my website. I can guarantee you that. So you have kind of a captive audience there, and you have a lot of time to deliver all this value. So just think about how much, if you teach the thing that you're good at, how much value can you cram into about 45 minutes of time? Right? You can teach a whole lot of really, really valuable stuff and give people this feeling of, oh my God, this was amazing, and I'm going to do something that will change my business or change my life now. And then you can also tie that in with, here's our product and here's some special offer or whatever. And so you have all these people who are, feeling great about the content they've just received. And obviously you want to make the promotion in such a way that it somehow ties into the content you were talking about. And so a lot of people will be happy to purchase. And this is something that I've done. As I said, I haven't done this for Thrive Themes yet, but I plan to. And I've done this in the past, you can build an entire business just with webinar promotions.
Can you give us any idea of the type of success that you've had with one of your webinars, maybe a bigger webinar? What type of revenues were you able to generate?
Well, I think, but I don't know. Don't take my word for this, but I think the most extreme result we ever had was that we made $16,000 on the webinar. So like just on that, during those 2 hours, we made $16,000. And then, when you send out in the hours after that, more money comes in. And when you send out the replay, more money comes in. So but I think that was like the biggest ever just income spike that I've seen from just one webinar.
Yeah, that's impressive. And so when you do like a special offer at the end of the webinar, how long do you usually leave that special offer up? Is it like a 24-hour, 48-hour type deal, or what's your strategy there?
Usually a couple of days, maybe 2 or 3 days. Mm-hmm. So I found that there are a lot of eager buyers who will have sometimes legitimate reasons why they can't, get it in 24 hours. And so you have to kind of balance. If you say, oh, it's open for 5 months, then there's no urgency and nobody cares, and you lose a lot of potential buyers. But if you make it too short, I have found that, we get, basically it's also a support thing, right? If we make it too short, if we make like a 24-hour special, we'll just have very, very busy support staff, because many people will be very eager to buy this thing but won't be able to, and so it's just not worth it. So I think 2 or 3 days is a pretty good time frame for a webinar.
Yep, I think that makes sense. And so I'm just thinking about listeners out there that maybe don't have a list, they don't have a lot of contacts with affiliates, but they've got a great product idea. Is there anything that you haven't mentioned already that maybe they should be doing in their marketing? Where can they start? Maybe outside of contacting affiliates, because I think anybody can do that, whether they have, that existing contact or a list. They can be reaching out to affiliates, but what else could they be doing? They're just starting out and they need a few tips to help them along.
Yeah. So so the way. I think it's very important that you said they have a product idea, which is, I think, where a lot of people sit for a very, very long time. One of the biggest issues is that the people don't pull the trigger, and they don't take that step. So what you should do, and here is, I love the concept of the lean startup, and because what I've essentially been talking about, right? We release a product early, and we then release lots of updates based on user feedback. That is the lean startup model, right? For those who are familiar with this kind of thing. And one of the concepts that also belongs into this kind of group of let's say, model is the idea of the minimum viable product. The minimum viable product is, you ask yourself, what is the absolute smallest, still useful version of this product that I can release in order to test the market, all right? So Instead of saying, I'm going to build the most amazing, WordPress widget, right? The most amazing WordPress widget anyone has ever seen, with all the features and, better design, more templates and more options and more than anyone else. And I'm going to build that and then release it. You ask yourself, what is the simplest, most minimal form of this widget that I can release in order to test the market and to see, does anyone even want this? And also in order to start getting in touch with actual users who will be able to help me figure out, what are the priorities? Do I actually need all of these features that I've planned, and so on? This is an extremely important concept. And to remove all technicality out of this, let me put it like this. If you have a product idea, and if you're listening right now, I'm talking to you, okay? If you have a product idea, set yourself a deadline that starts from now and ends in 3 weeks, okay? In your calendar, mark that date, 3 weeks from now. 3 weeks from now, you will be releasing something. You have 3 weeks. What is the most minimal but also most useful thing that you can have ready for release in 3 weeks? That means it needs to be done in 2 weeks, okay? So you have a week to set up all the other crap, like whatever, how are you gonna accept payments? How are you gonna get people on all this technical stuff? That's gonna take like a week, okay? So in 2 weeks, this thing has to be ready to ship, and then you have another week to set everything up. And 3 weeks from now, you're going to launch this. This is the best way to think of this, okay? Because instead of trying to think, minimum viable product, blah blah blah, technical stuff, no. Give yourself a deadline. Give yourself a deadline that's uncomfortable. If you give yourself a deadline, just as a side note, if you give yourself a deadline and you feel comfortable afterwards, it is way too far in the future, okay? Give yourself a deadline that's uncomfortable. And 3 weeks for most people is very uncomfortable when it comes to their product. Because, as I say, most people have been sitting with this idea for probably like 2 years. So give yourself a deadline, 3 weeks, you will be publishing something. Find a way. I know this is difficult, and I know you're thinking about 1,000 excuses in your head right now, and I know you're thinking, no, he's not talking to me, he's talking to these other people who have an idea. No, I'm talking to you. You have an idea. 3 weeks from now, publish it, send me the link.
I love it. Send us the link too.
Yeah.
I love it. Hopefully some people are pumped up after listening to that.
I am. I'm trying to launch an ebook, man. I'm going to get on it.
That's right.
Do it. An ebook. Dude, the deadline for an ebook is 5 days.
Yeah.
Better step it up. No, very good. I agree. I totally agree with that. I do want to talk a little bit specifically about Thrive Themes. We sort of brushed over, what it is and what it does, but for people listening that have never seen Thrive Themes, never seen the Thrive Content Builder, tell us what it is and some of the biggest benefits that people have from using it.
Right. Okay. So Thrive Themes is basically, our aim is to create tools that are conversion focused. And that includes themes and plugins. So, and let me just briefly talk about themes because that's where the idea originated. I saw, and I'm an avid theme user myself because I built all these different sites for different products and so on. So I was using WordPress themes all the time. And I was very, very frustrated because, as I said, I've been doing this for years. I have a pretty good idea of what you need to put on a website to make it an effective marketing site, right? To make it a site that is built to generate money for a business. And I was very frustrated because I could find a lot of WordPress themes that have a lot of fancy features, a lot of, some very spectacular looking stuff like Ajax loading and fade in effects and large sliders and video backgrounds and stuff. Unfortunately, none of that stuff helps your business. Okay. None of it helps your business. And I was very frustrated with how much, I had to try so many different themes and I had to do so much customization just to get a WordPress theme that will help me, that will even just get out of the way and let me build a website that I know will convert, right? Will get people to buy. And I was like, but this isn't right. Why this kind of, why is no one making themes for people like me who want to sell stuff online? And okay, so there were some, like Optimized Press and things like that. But these were often made for a very specific, just a sales page kind of thing. And I didn't always agree with their design decisions. And many of these were also very, very bloated. So you'd have this huge theme with 10,000 options, and it slows down your site and all sorts of stuff. But all you really want is just a lean, efficient marketing site. So I set out to create that. The idea was, these are the perfect themes for people who care about conversions, right? If you want to turn more of your visitors into subscribers, members, customers, or clients, these themes are built for you. If what you want is you want to have the fanciest, latest effects and, stuff flying in from all sides and animated and things like that, our themes are not for you. They don't do any of that. So our themes are built to convert. And in the same sense, this is the approach we have to everything we build, is we look at, how can we make this serve people who care about conversions, right? That's always the goal. So the same is true for Thrive Content Builder. Thrive Content Builder is made to help you build, and Thrive Content Builder, just, to explain this briefly, is a visual editor for WordPress. So think of it like this. Right now, you're using your WordPress editor, which is kind of in the back end of WordPress, and you create your content there. And then you have to check what it looks like on your website. Now, Thrive Content Builder takes away that step. And instead of doing that, you're just looking at your website and you're editing your content and creating your content on your website with no layer of abstraction in between. And it also it comes with all sorts of features, such as, testimonials, like pre-styled testimonials, guarantee boxes, content boxes, buttons. We have tons of buttons and tons of button options. Why? Because buttons are a conversion element, right? So it does all that kind of thing. You can also create light boxes and like two-step opt-ins and things like that to build your mailing list. So the whole thing, again, we don't go, how can we make, when we decide what kind of features do we put in this, we think of, what's the business goal at the other end of the feature? And only if we can see a way to create a feature that will help you achieve a business goal do we actually build it. And there's 1,000 things that we haven't included because, they may be nice to look at, but they're not going to serve your business. So that's the differentiating point with Thrive Themes, right? We build software for WordPress that is always very, very streamlined towards helping you achieve a business purpose.
Yeah. Now, Perrin, did you have any follow-ups to either Thrive specifically or any additional questions there?
No, I think I maybe want to also try to sell it myself a little bit here, just based on my own experience with it, and just because I know our audience. Like I had to make a rule for myself a long time ago that I would stop answering WordPress questions over email because I get so many of them in my inbox that it just eats hours out of my day. And the questions are always like, how did you get this review thing in there, or how did you make that table, and those types of things. Thrive Content Builder has almost all of that in one package that's basically drag and drop and allows you to see it on your own website without having to update a million times or publish it or click back and forth between tabs. It's the easiest possible way to do basically all of that. And it's like, I don't know. It's just super, super, super easy. And I think probably when we post the blog post, we're going to put a lot of those elements in there so that people can see them. But, yeah, I think it's...
I actually forgot to mention, I can't believe I forgot to mention this so far. We also have a thing called landing pages, which is part of the same plugin, which is, again, answering to what we saw people asking for. Is more of a done for you factor, right? So they were like, okay, nice, you have all these, you have all these features and customization. Now, can you please do it for me? And so we said, okay, we'll do it for you. So now we have, right now it must be like close to 40 templates of just pre-built things like opt-in pages. We've got a really nice sales page, or actually 2, I think now. And like email confirmation pages, thank you pages, download pages, stuff like that, where you can like be super lazy and just go load template, click, and then change the text, add your download link, done. And it's designed by really good designers, and it's all, and they're all working with people who understand conversion optimization. So these are all really nice, highly optimized templates where we've done as much of the work for you as possible.
Awesome. Yeah, I just want to thank you, first of all, for coming on. You've shared a lot of really great marketing tips that I think people can implement into their own business, whether they're just starting out or already have a product and maybe want to take it to the next level. I think there's several things that people probably aren't doing that they could be doing in their business. But also, as Perrin mentioned, we are actually using the Thrive Content Builder. We've used it a little bit on our authority site, and we're looking to use it in some other places. So you've got a great product there that you've created. So we thank you for that as well. But before we let you go, is there any last parting words of wisdom that you want to share, and where can people follow along with what you're doing?
Sure. So where people can follow along is just go to thrivethemes.com, where we also have a blog where I'll be publishing more and more. Lately, I've mainly just been publishing, product updates, but I'm also starting to write more about things like conversion optimization, things like just topics related to how to make your website more effective. So that's all on thrivethemes.com. I also have a marketing site, imimpact.com, but really just go to Thrive Themes. And because that's where that's most of my activity is there right now anyway. So, and as far as parting words, I think the most important part of all this, I talked about like strategies and things I use in my business, but I think the most important part is what we talked about in terms of, pulling the trigger and actually doing something. This is the obstacle where most people fail at this first step, essentially, right? And you can be deliberating forever. And so I am very serious about this 3-week deadline. Like, give yourself a 3-week deadline to make some part of your idea reality, because you have to take that step. You have to put it out there. And I know that's scary, but you have to do it to start getting that momentum. And it's totally worth it. Look, this is doing this kind of thing is really scary. It's often really overwhelming. It can be very frustrating, but it's also the most adventurous and most rewarding thing you'll ever do. Like, give yourself this push, give yourself this deadline. And like I said, I am talking to you. I am really talking to you. Do this. You will not regret it.
Awesome.
Very good. The challenge has been thrown down to our listeners out there. Go ahead and take some action. I agree. I mean, too many people are out there with ideas and they haven't taken that next step to actually putting their product on the market. So take that action, set that deadline, and then let us know. Let Shane know. Let us know. We'd love to hear about the action that you're taking. So
yeah, so 3 weeks from now, let's check the comments. Just put them in the comments and show us what you've done.
Yep. I'll definitely be checking.
Yep, that sounds great. So once again, Shane, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. We appreciate your time very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And everybody listening in out there, just thanks again for listening and best of luck in your business. Again, I hope you enjoyed the podcast here. If you are interested in learning more about Thrive themes, you can go to the special link that Shane has set up for this podcast and my audience at nichepursuits.com/thrive. Again, that's nichepursuits.com/thrive. Thank you everyone for listening.